What's going on, y'all? Welcome to another episode of The Play Callers, the only interactive sports talk show on the internet. So, as always, man, if you guys are tuning in live, drop your comments in the chat box. We love to interact with you. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button whether you are listening live or you are tuning in and catching us on a replay. We appreciate y'all tuning in.
Yes,
So, for
sir.
those of y'all that might be new to the show, my name is Stephen Boss. I am one half of the dynamic duo, and I'm joined as always by my other half, the one and the only.
Yeah, Cool McCain. We'll start the show today, man. I had a couple of people in my family pass. I just want to do a quick acknowledgement for them. My dad and one of my aunts. So rest in peace to both of you guys. And try to put on the show for you tonight. Hopefully you watch it.
Yeah, man. I know it's a little bit of a difficult time for you, man. So I think everybody would have definitely understood if you wanted to take the night off, but you a super soldier, man. You want to make sure that you still showed up, gave the people what they needed, man. So
Always, man, always.
So, man, we got lots of sports stuff going on this week, man. We got the first ever Wednesday afternoon football game for the NFL.
If you want to
We
call it.
had we had the first ever time that an NFL team played with no actual active quarterback on a roster able to play in the game. And we also had the NBA release the first half of the schedule, which that comment alone should tell you what kind of season and what kind of year it's been up to this point.
Exactly.
And of course, we got to talk about the Christmas Day games for the NBA too. So lots and lots of stuff to talk about tonight. So where do you want to start? Do you want to start with the good, the bad, or the ugly?
Well, I want to start with the ugly. So, a couple of things that kind of grinded my gears with the NFL this week. The main thing that ticked me off was Denver. You made Denver go out, you made them play with a guy that wasn't even a quarterback on the team. You didn't allow them to go out to the practice squad team and pick up a practice squad quarterback, someone who actually played the quarterback position. You had a game scheduled for Tuesday. You were flexible with those teams to allow them to not have to play their game until Wednesday. Why could not, under the circumstances, Denver get that same opportunity to at least have one of the quarterbacks to be able to play? I get, the contact tracing and you were able to do it, or that's what was said, but at the end of the day, you made a team go out there, play a game with a guy who hasn't started a game since probably high school at quarterback, that was on the practice squad as a wide receiver. So if I'm Denver and I miss the playoffs by a game, I have a beef with the NFL. You can't do your teams like that in a COVID year. You have to have more flexibility in those situations. Like I said, if you had at least one quarterback that could play, I get it. But all three quarterbacks, and the best option you gave them to be able to play was they had to bring somebody from their practice squad. Come on, NFL, you got to do better than that for the teams. You got to do better.
And the thing is, man, not just did you have a guy who hasn't played quarterback, but you have a guy that even in college was a backup quarterback. He wasn't good enough to start in college. And it's not like he went to some major university. I mean, he went to a Power 5 school, but it wasn't one of the big dogs. So it's not like this is a guy who has some experience in college and just hadn't got a chance in the NFL or whatever. This was a guy who had no business in the playing quarterback. I mean, he even said himself after the game that he knew the concepts, he just couldn't make plays. And I get that you got the COVID protocols and you got to make sure that you test people and all this other stuff. My question is, you're telling me that every single person that's on a roster, including practice squad players, are being tested, right? So why can't you go and get a player from another team's practice squad? Why do you have to go and have that person now wait 6 days to be able to join your team too? If they're being tested on the team they on now, why do they need to wait 6 days? They don't need to be tested again. It's ridiculous. And like you said, they should have pushed that game back, gave them a couple of days to see if they could get one of their quarterbacks back, or given them time to get somebody in that could have passed the protocol, or you could have just rescheduled the game for another time because it's not like we haven't seen the NFL do that before.
Yeah, man, you really put them at a disadvantage. I'm not a Broncos fan, but I believe in fairness, right? And to me, that's like completely unfair. And I don't feel like enough people that I've heard about, as far as, different shows have really talked about it, but you basically made Denver forfeit that game. If you had a guy who couldn't do his position, and if you can't play your position, then how are you going to really benefit the team? It's just like asking a cornerback to go play wide receiver because all the wide receivers are hurt. And cornerbacks are cornerbacks because 9 times out of 10, they don't have great wide receiver hands. Not to knock any of them, but that's why they're cornerbacks, right? Because if they can run fast, they can read the plays and all that, the main difference would be, they're probably not as good at catching the ball. You basically did the same thing to them. And, to me, like I said, man, if I work with the Broncos, if I'm a fan, I'm raising Cain right now, man, because you basically just gave away a game. Same thing as a forfeit.
Yeah. And, I know you remember I complained a few weeks back when the 49ers and the Packers both had several people, they had COVID. We were already down a bunch of people on IR, and I complained about the fact they made us go out and play on a Thursday night game instead of at least allowing us to push that back till Sunday and play that week. But, that situation was frustrating because we had a guy with a false positive. And even though they went ahead and said, oh, yeah, it was a false positive, they still wouldn't let anybody that came in contact with him on the field. So it's frustrating as a fan of, sports. And that's why I bring up the Broncos thing, too, because I'm like, hey, it's not just because it was my team the first time. It's the fact that you are treating different teams differently. Sometimes you're going out there making people play shorthanded on short weeks. Other times you're pushing games back. And this was a game that was originally supposed to be played on Thursday. They basically pushed this game back almost a whole week.
6 days. And, ironically, we didn't have a game this Thursday.
Yeah. So, it's... Yeah. There's really not much else to say about that, man. We've talked in the past, and we're going to talk about it a little bit tonight, about how the NBA did things the right way with the bubble, how they are continuing to do some different things that we're going to talk about tonight that are really helpful and things that I think are really intelligent. And the NFL really should be following suit on some of this stuff because they clearly don't have their stuff together.
Absolutely not. Want to acknowledge R.I.P. Ryder here. I'm guessing we have a Saints fan watching, so, guys have been doing pretty well.
Yeah, I'm wondering who that is, man. I'm wondering if that might be your boy Bengals fan, man.
We won't know, man, until they say something else. Let us know who they are. We won't know. But, yeah, man, a lot going on. Tonight is going to be a lot of talking about different things that's, in place, going over a lot of the NBA things like, my coach was just saying. Just want to keep you guys, a little bit of an education on what's happening with the NBA and get you prepared because they're going to start training camp. They're going to start having games in like a week. They're in training camp now.
Yeah. What's up, E?
Big E, back on the scene. And guys, feel free to give us your thoughts. We can go back over them later on this whole what I call debacle for the Broncos, and then the fact that you let another team basically have an extra 6 days to play, and you wouldn't get a Broncos at least until that Wednesday as well to see if they could get people healthy. Like I said, I just don't like when things aren't, fair. And I do believe that that's not fair. And I was upset when I heard about it as a sports fan. It's not my team again, neither team involved, but I just don't like when things are not put in place properly that really help everybody be their best to win. We're in a COVID situation. We know people can catch it, get it, but you got to be flexible for everyone. If you're going to be flexible for certain teams, you got to have that flexibility for everyone. And that's fairness, competitive advantages. You're giving teams competitive advantages. You don't want to get into that. So let's just not even do that. Come on.
Hey, man, I look at it like this. If we don't speak up when it happens to a team that you don't care about, then you can't say anything when it happens to your team.
This is very true.
And the thing is, if they treat one team that way and they get away with it, they're going to end up treating somebody else that way too. And that's just unacceptable, man. Like to like literally go out there and make people play with no quarterback is just ridiculous. It's beyond ridiculous.
Absolutely, man. So Eric did respond that they treating the Broncos like a stepchild. Now, Eric, is that a redheaded stepchild or just a normal stepchild? Just so we can be clear how your stance you're taking on that.
Yeah, we inquire minds do want to know, man. Need clarification. There's levels to this, Eric. There's levels to this.
Red, of course. I was assuming that was it, Eric, but I just wanted to make sure that we weren't putting words into your mouth.
Yeah. No assumptions here, man. No assumptions here. We're not the NFL.
No, sir. Everybody's equal here.
We treat everybody fairly here.
So so Big Rob decides to hop on the stage. They've been playing without a QB almost all year. So the difference is, Rob, you actually have quarterbacks on your roster. They may not be good enough to start in the NFL, but they did start in college and have some experience playing quarterback. Denver did not. So that's a whole different situation. But your quarterbacks are bad, but they're not a guy off the practice squad that's a practice squad wide receiver that didn't even start in college back.
And I mean, hey, Rob, you do have a guy playing quarterback for you who has taken a team to the playoffs. So that's a lot more than some practice squad wide receiver who is a backup quarterback in college.
And don't get me wrong, he won't take you to the playoffs this year or any year moving forward, but he has taken teams to the playoffs before, so there's experience there. And I do agree, Eric, with your assumption of the natural redhead too, no doubt. Completely understand.
Yeah. I was about to say the same thing Eric just said. That was the funny thing to me, bro. They tried to get permission to let their coach come in and play.
Right. Yeah,
I can't actually blame the NFL for saying no on that one though, because you don't want to set their president.
Yeah, I can't really blame them, but at the same time, you had to do something for them. Like, you put them in a bad situation. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. I don't know. I mean, I understand you denied that coach. You could have gave him some extra time. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, that's the ugly. So let's talk about the flip side of that. Let's talk about the game that got postponed from Thursday, and then you got pushed back to Tuesday. I think it actually was going to be Sunday. Then they said Tuesday, and then they came out and said Wednesday when the Ravens players complained. So you basically pushed this game back like 6 days in order for these two teams to be able to go out there and play. And I don't understand why, because nobody really thought that Baltimore had a chance in this game with Lamar Jackson out with COVID. Nobody thought they had a chance. Why did you need to push the game back 6 days? And you can't say for ratings because you decided to put the game on like 3:40 in the afternoon Eastern time. Nobody watching football on Wednesday at 3:40 p.m.
I can honestly say, man, that game stunk. That game was the only game that was the game.
No. It's not that it stunk, man. You know what it did. Go on, tell us what it really did.
It was stinking. That's what it was. It stank.
It stank.
It was terrible, man. It stank.
and yes, Rod, they really did ask for a coach to be able to play.
Yes, they did. Yeah. I mean, I'm telling you, man, like, I think people don't understand if you don't really pay attention to all these things. There's a lot going on during the week, especially a lot of people paying attention to your team and things that affect your team. But they were literally down to no quarterback that they had that could play. You know, they were out just trying to get options for somebody that had at least played quarterback sometime. You know what I'm saying? In the past like year or two. That's how bad it was for them, man. And that's just terrible. You don't want to set that kind of precedent. That's my beef with it. But this game, man, that they had on Wednesday, you could have had that game any day of the week. That's terrible. I mean, you know, Pittsburgh, they won, but it's terrible. RG3 was the quarterback of the Ravens. It tells you a lot you need to know right there.
Yeah. So speaking of Pittsburgh, man, the big debate right now, undefeated, are they the best team in the AFC?
In my opinion, no. Even though
I mean,
they've
I'm
lost,
inclined to agree.
yeah, even though they've lost the game, you can't honestly stand here and tell me that team that you saw just play, team that you've been seeing for the last few weeks, is a better team than Kansas City. Can you honestly, 100%, look me in my face and tell me that team is better than Tennessee when everything's going right? When Tennessee's got it going. Because think about the losses that Tennessee has, right? So you think about the teams, and I'm not saying that there's not credence to if somebody's doing a ranking and they're putting Pittsburgh number one, they're undefeated. I get that. But if we're talking about the team themselves, offense, defense, special teams, they're playing in a game for playoffs or for a championship, who do I feel like I would take? That's what I'm answering when you ask me the question. So to me, no. To me, I think they're possibly the second, somewhere between the second and the third best team in the AFC.
Yeah, I mean, let's not get it twisted. I know we got some Steelers fans that tune into the show, so we're not trying to disrespect your team whatsoever. I do think they are one of the better teams in the league. They're definitely in the top 2 or 3 in the AFC, but just because they're undefeated doesn't make them the best team. And I'm not gonna go with the whole. Yeah, I'm not gonna go with the whole like, oh, they haven't really played anybody because you play who's on your schedule. You don't have any control over that. But I am going to look at what I see on the field, and what I see is a really good defense, a decent offense that can go out there and win them games. And they're going to win more often than they're going to lose. But they haven't played a juggernaut yet. And I think when they do, it's going to be a rude awakening.
Yep. Rob brought up a point here that they did beat Tennessee. If I do recall, that was a game where a couple of players weren't available for Tennessee, so they didn't get Tennessee at full strength. So if we're going by who beat who, then we're going to really taint a lot of teams other than Pittsburgh, who hasn't lost to anyone. Well, what I'm saying is, again, Rob, I don't care who's beat. I'm just going to put it straight out there, because the Eagles have won games this year, and they're one of the worst teams in the NFL. Quarterback has the most turnovers in the NFL, but they have 4 wins, or 3 wins. So are you saying that they're better than the 3 teams they beat? I would say probably not, the way that they're playing. But at the end of the day, they do have those wins. So what I am saying is, if you were putting Kansas City or Tennessee on the field with them, the way I feel about it is, Tennessee's going to get them a run for their money. And if their running back gets going and he's doing his thing, and the receivers are catching the ball because, they're young, so they sometimes don't catch the ball, sometimes they drops and shit. But if they're off there hitting like they're supposed to, bro, with that defense being pretty good, they're going to win that game. At least 5 out of 10 times. I'm looking at Kansas City. I'm thinking Kansas City can beat this Steelers team about 7 out of 10 times. So when I look at that, I say Tennessee's at least as good as this Steelers team. And Kansas City's better than the Steelers team. So, wins and losses aside, looking at the teams, like McCole was saying, looking at the teams and saying, this is what I see from this team, this is what I see from this team. Strengths, weaknesses, matchups, defense against defense, all those things. I think those 2 teams, one is at least as good, possibly better, and the other one is clearly better.
Yep. I mean, we'll find out as the season goes on here. Pittsburgh might surprise me because we haven't really seen them have too much competition just yet. So we haven't really had a chance to see them. Last year we had the same conversation about San Francisco when they started off the season. I want to say it was like 8-9-0, something like that, and there was a lot of question marks about them. And then they went through a stretch where they played Baltimore, New Orleans, Seattle, and like one other game. And they lost like one of those games, and that was at Baltimore by like 2 points. And afterwards, people were like, okay, they legit, because we just watched them go through this gauntlet of games, and they came out of it with only one loss, and even that game was close. So people started believing them,
Yeah,
and until Pittsburgh goes through something similar, it's just hard to buy in completely because what I'm seeing on the field doesn't stand out to me. They're not going out there and just world beating people.
exactly. The coach even said the team needs to play better after a win.
Yeah.
So this is the kind of things you have to, just pay attention to, man. Not just always wins and losses, because wins and losses are great. And like I said, you're going to rank the team the highest if they have the wins and they don't have a loss. But once that first loss comes, watch and see what happens. And, even this week, they're playing the football team on Monday night. I mean, let's be real. The football team is not a horrible team. They won some games. But this is another team that's in this horrible NFC, right? Where we all kind of have, this bad funk thing going on with all the teams. So until somebody really emerges, what are you proving by beating a team from the weakest division in the NFL?
Right.
But what happens if you go out and lose this game to Pittsburgh? What does that say?
Right. Yeah, I mean, we all know, man. I mean, different teams play different at different times of the year.
Yeah. Absolutely. Hopefully someone from the East decides to win some games.
At least 8.
Might be lucky.
Hopefully somebody in your division gets to at least 8, man. So y'all don't have a loser as a division winner.
Good luck with that hope, man. Good luck with that hope.
Hey man, I'm just hoping that my team can either go ahead and mess around and get a good draft pick or make the playoffs and go on a magic run, man. One or the other.
I don't even want to go into that because we only have an hour show. It would take me more than that to tell you what I hope.
Eric said, "Let us pray." Yeah, I might. Ross said nobody winning. Nobody winning 8. Rob, man, y'all division, boy.
Rob made a good point about the Eagles and the Cowboys didn't give them a run for their money. And what does that tell you? You know what I'm saying? Like, I need to see more. And I can't discount them because you're still undefeated. But I'm saying if I'm looking at matchups, those are two teams that I feel like head-to-head, both teams 100% trouble. Just because to beat Pittsburgh, they have a lot of good guys on wide receiver. Running back, it's kind of shaky for them. Tight end, they do get yards. They find ways to manufacture. They use the wide receiver sometimes in the rounds in the backfield and do different things. So, you're doing a lot of things that are kind of outside of the box. Respect you for that. It's helping you win games. But when you're playing against better defenses, they're going to be more prepared because you've been doing these things. So I think what we're going to see with them is, they're going to go up against teams who have good defenses, and those teams are going to give them fits. Now, if they're playing a team who has a good defense, but the offense may not have caught up yet, they may be able to put enough points on the board to beat that team. But when you're playing a team that at least has a middle offense and one of the upper tier defenses, it's going to be hard to do that. And once you get to the playoffs, those are the teams you're going to see. So that's what I'm looking at when I'm thinking about Pittsburgh versus other teams in the AFC.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree, man. So I'm just curious, man. Since we have Rob on tonight, man, and Eric as well, there's a couple of running backs out in the NFC East that have severely underperformed. For New York, you got Saquon, who has stayed injured, and Dallas Zeke is not earning anywhere near that. $15 million a year he's making. So I'd be curious to see from you guys. Are you hoping that those guys can bounce back next year, or are you kind of ready to move on from those guys? Because those were two high profile running backs that your teams brought in. So kind of curious to see what you guys think on those.
Yeah, that's good question, man, especially for guys that are fans of those teams. While we're getting those comments, man, we'll definitely, smile when we get those comments from you guys. It may take you a moment to think about it, see how you feel. You have a lot of NBA to talk about.
Yep.
A whole lot of NBA. You know,
Whole
like
lot.
you said earlier, half the schedule's been released. Got Christmas Day that's packed with watchable, very interesting games. I know where I'll be all day. I'll be in front of my TV watching all the teams, especially the nightcap, because that's my team playing. That's my squad, so it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, man. I'm looking forward to it. We got 5 really good games on Christmas. Even with the season starting on the 22nd, we got a couple games before Christmas that are really good. Opening night, you've actually got the Lakers against the Clippers, the matchup that a lot of people thought was going to be the Western Conference Finals last year. So, very interesting game to start off the season with. As far as the night game, Christmas, you've got a lot of really good matchups. The least notable matchup in that is Dallas and Phoenix, which with Chris Paul going to Phoenix, they're going to be an interesting team. So even though that's the least marquee matchup on Christmas, I think it's going to be a really fun game to watch. It's going to be highly entertaining. There's going to be a lot of scoring in that game. I'm not sure there will be much defense in that game, but there's going to be a whole lot of offense.
And that game's got Luka. You know, everybody loves some Luka right now.
So Eric says, so Eric has responded. He says that his guy had negative O line to help him. He didn't underperform. He tried to manage in his body. He said, forget that. And Ross says our line is horrible, but Zeke got to stop with the fumbles though. So pretty much sounds like neither one of them are ready to move on from their respective running backs. Sounds like both of them feel like the offensive line is the primary problem. Although if Zeke keeps coughing up that ball, Rob might change his mind. I can respect that though. I mean, yeah, I can respect that, man. I just was just curious how you guys felt, man, because I know, especially with Saquon, is the injuries have got to be frustrating as a Giants fan to see that. So
yeah, we always say the best ability is availability, and
yep.
no shade at all on him because Saquon Barkley, when he's out there, he's a beast. But just
absolutely,
not it can negatively impacts everyone on that team. It's clear. We're looking at the Christmas schedule. Start off with the Pelicans and the Heat. That's a game I like. The reason I like that game is you've got an up-and-coming team in the Pelicans. They added some new pieces. Remove Drew Holiday from the equation. You got at Bledsoe. You got Steven Adams from the Thunder. So you got a little bit more grit you added to the team, and you still got those other guys. So I think that's a really good matchup against the defending Eastern Conference champions. A team who I feel like if they were healthy may have pushed LA a little bit more. I do believe either way LA probably would have won the series just because they were better equipped for that. But the Heat were a story last year. 15 Eastern Conference champions. So interesting to see if they're going to be able to come out and repeat some of that. They did lose Jay Crowder. So that's a piece that they'll need to replace in Miami. Curious to see, how they're going to come out this year, what we're going to get from Miami. So I like that game. Warriors versus Bucks. See what happens with the Warriors. The Bucks are going to test them. Giannis got in some shooting around him this year, so hopefully he's going to use it to the best of his abilities.
Yeah, those are both going to be some interesting games, man. I'm going to be curious to see, Miami last year really kind of made a name for themselves by being really high intensity, especially on the defensive side of the ball. With New Orleans, you got a young team that's going to be excited to come out there and try to showcase what they can do. So I think you're going to have 2 fairly young teams, both really high energy, come out there ready to play. It should be a super fun game to watch. And then with Milwaukee, the most interesting thing, like you said, is going to be seen with the moves that you made. Did you do enough to help get over the top? Because in order to keep Giannis around, you're going to have to hope this season goes better than the last 2 have.
Yeah,
Just finishing with the one seed in the East isn't going to be enough now.
yeah, and then also,
And that's not even guaranteed. Let's be real.
yeah, I think you have until what? I think he has until the end of the month or so to sign his max extension, or he'll basically enter free agency. So it's interesting to see if they're going to be able to do enough to get him to sign that, or at least if he does enter free agency, to want to stay there. Another game for me. All the games are exciting for different reasons. For me, the Nets and Celtics, to get KD back on the floor, right?
Yep.
And they may have another game before this, but KD in a primetime matchup. Kyrie as well against that Celtics team, another team that I felt like had some chances last year, a little bit more seasoning, and I think they would have broke through last year, but didn't quite get it done.
Yeah.
They lost Gordon Hayward, so placing what he was to the team is going to be, paramount for them. So we'll see. They've had some every year they've been losing some pieces off that team, so we'll be interested to see with what's left, because it's still the same core, but every year, you get a couple of those important pieces that seem to leave and go somewhere else. So we'll see if they're able to continue to try to be one of those elite teams in the East, because there are other teams that will be coming for it. So excited about that as well. Just looking at the different games that are going to be out there. Because the Clippers and the Nuggets, and then it looks like they're going to have the Mavs, the Lakers as well, from what I'm seeing here. So, really good games, really exciting, and they should, push the envelope. Obviously, the defending champions, Luka Doncic, that's going to be a good matchup. You're looking at the Clips and the Nuggets. Want to see what's going to happen there. Big day, like I said, man, I don't see a game on there where I'm like, every game I'm like, yeah, that should be a good matchup. So NBA, kudos to you actually for putting together a good schedule for Christmas. You'll have me in front of my TV all day, guaranteed.
Yeah, and speaking of scheduling with the NBA, even outside of just the great job they did with the Christmas Day games, they also made some tweaks this year. Number one, they intelligently only released half the schedule. That way, if anything happens with COVID, if they have to move some stuff around, they gave themselves some flexibility by not announcing the second half of that schedule just yet. The other thing is they're doing what they call basically series. So if you are, say for example, going to have to play Atlanta, like if you're the Lakers and you're going to play Atlanta in Atlanta, and you're also supposed to play Charlotte, they're going to actually schedule those games back to back. That way you're not having to fly out to Atlanta, come back home, and then a week later fly back out to Charlotte. So you're actually going to play both of those games at once. That way you only have to travel once. That's something I would actually like to see them do going forward, is things like that. So you're basing games on geography, and you're making it to where it's cutting down on travel time, which, hey, now that you showed us that you can do it, it's something that I think a lot of people felt like they should have did all along, so hopefully they'll keep it.
Right. Give us the best games as possible. If you're going to have a condensed schedule, or you're going to start later, which I know is something the NBA has been wanting to do for a while now anyway, if you're going to do that, then make it make sense. There's nothing logistically speaking where you can't do this every year. If you can do it now, you're showing us that it's something that you can do. So like you said, why not continue it? Why not if, I'm a Denver fan. Denver's got to come over and play Boston. Why should they be also playing Brooklyn and the Knicks in that same time frame, right? It only makes sense. You're in the similar areas, 76ers or whatever, whoever's the closest of those teams geographically speaking. But you get the gist of what I'm saying. Just play the teams that are closest to you from where you're playing. Go ahead and knock those games out to make it easier on both teams, especially the team that's traveling, but also, get a lot of good games on a couple of days in between. Make it make sense. Make it make sense for the players. If you do some of those things, you may actually see less of this load management pandemic, I almost want to call it, in the NBA. Because if those guys are not having to travel back and forth, they're staying in the same places, they're able to travel, travel short distance to the next game, those can make things easier and make guys decide, hey, I don't have to worry about it. If you're playing the Lakers one night, Why not play the Clippers the next night? Play the Clippers one night. Why not play the Lakers the next night? It only makes sense.
Right. Yeah. And welcome to Bohemia. Well, it agrees that it makes sense as well. So appreciate you tuning in and commenting as well. So, man, I just look at the difference, and we talked about this a little bit last year during the bubble. But I look at the difference in how the NBA is handling all this stuff between the bubble last year, thinking about actually scheduling games by geography, leaving themselves flexibility in the schedule. Is so much smarter than the way the NFL has gone about this. The NFL to me just has not handled this well at all. Their whole contingency plan was, we're going to have people who have a bye in 1 week play each other week 4. And that was it. That was the extent of their plan. Like, they really thought it was going to be like one outbreak and that was going to be it. I mean, it's amazing to me that the NBA is getting this so right and the NFL is getting it so wrong. It's crazy that they can be that far apart.
Well, it's not unexpected, though, to be honest. The NBA has shown in the past 6 months to a year that they're able to have more flexibility. They're more willing to listen to their players and try to make things as comfortable for them as they can to get the season done, right? The whole bubble situation. Whereas the NFL is like, whatever, it is what it is. Yeah. Y'all figure it out. Those two teams will let you have 6 days, but you don't get an extra day. You don't have anybody. So it's just kind of crazy. Now, we're going to talk a little bit more about the NBA. I got to switch gears here. The NFL picks, of course, we grab a couple picks and maybe a couple of more generalized NBA conversation here. We got to switch gears. So, big trade happened this week, 2 days ago, between the Houston Rockets and the Washington Wizards. And there's been a lot of talk about this from different perspectives, right? Russell Westbrook, for anybody who hasn't heard, has been traded to the Washington Wizards. In return, John Wall and a first-round protected draft pick have been sent to Houston. So people want to say who won, who lost. I'll tell you from my perspective, very simply. Houston won in that they got a contract back that's similar to what they sent out, but they did gain a first-round pick. They don't have picks because they traded them all in the Chris Paul trade. So they got an asset that if they use it properly can help. Houston won in that respect. The Wizards won in that you got the better player, and you got the guy that meshes better with Bradley Beal. A lot of people haven't agreed with this opinion I have from listening to talk shows and sports shows. They haven't. But listen, think about this. Russell Westbrook is not a great shooter, but he doesn't take as many threes. He understands what he's the best at. If he's hot or he feels like he can make it, he'll pull up a table. But he's more of a driver. He will pass. He will facilitate. He's a triple-double guy. So he's looking to make the pass. He's looking to grab the rebound, start the break, as well as, score. He's a take it to the basket guy. You got Brill there that you have to worry about. You got some other guys there on that team that are going to stretch the floor. So you're going to give him lanes that allow him to be him. One of the reasons that reports said he wanted to be out of Houston was James Harden doesn't want to listen, to be honest. James Harden didn't want to let him lead and say, hey, this is what we need to do. Obviously, James Harden's not doing it, or Russell Westbrook would have to do it. But when you have stars and one guy's trying to hold himself and the team accountable, and another guy doesn't want anybody to tell him what he's doing wrong, I know that those guys are friends off the court, but I'm with Russ. Get me up out of here. I don't want to be where I can't help my boy because he don't want to listen when we're trying to win here. And plus, you gutted the roster, you got rid of all the bigs. Now we sitting here playing small ball with everybody. And they picked up Christian Wood, but unless he's going to play the whole game and you're going to clone him so he can play power forward too, you still got to go out and find some more bigs to play. That was a bad decision. We talked about what happened. It wasn't going to work. Yeah. Westbrook and Beal are going to be fine. They're going to work well together. Beal's going to get lots of shots. He's not going to have to drive to the bucket a lot. and it's going to work a lot better than people think, in my opinion.
I mean, I agree that I think that Bill and Westbrook actually fit together really well. As a matter of fact, I feel like that move automatically puts Washington in serious playoff talk. Whereas they weren't going to be a serious playoff contender with Wall still there, especially because he can't be on the court. So to me, yeah, Houston, got a first round pick out of this, but they haven't showed me that they can use that pick for anything. And to be fair, they did just, get a new GM, or I don't even know if they hired a new GM yet. I think they did. So we don't really know what the new GM is going to do yet, but we haven't seen any evidence they're going to use that first round pick well. And at the end of the day, you basically got hosed if you're Houston, which is not an unfamiliar situation for them. You are allowing James Harden to basically run the organization. And as great as James Harden is, James Harden has never done enough to warrant that level of respect.
Hmm. That's that's real talk. Honestly, that's real talk. I mean, he's had individual but think about it. What has he done? In the team aspect, there isn't a lot
Yeah.
that he's done to make you be like, oh man, he's a great team. And he adding John Wall, who Bradley Beal didn't even want to play with anymore. So now you're putting him with, you know, Hart. Now those are two guys who I feel are both ball dominant. See, the thing with Bill is I don't think he really necessarily wants to be ball dominant. I think he wants to get his points. He doesn't mind playing defense, but he's not a guy that wants to sit there and pound the ball. When he's getting the ball, he wants to get it. He wants to shoot it, drive, or get rid of it. From what I've seen of him playing, that's more his style. Somebody like Russ is going to push that ball all the time. That's going to work out in his favor. He's going to be running to that corner, pull it up. He's going to be running to that, about 20 feet out, pulling up 15 footers, 10, 13 footers. You're always going to have opportunities if you're playing with a guy like Russ because he's running the floor. So if you're on Washington, y'all better be in shape because he's going to be running. And we can see that from Houston. The difference between the team when he was on the floor without Harden shouldn't have went unnoticed. Like I said, Wall could come back, be more like his old self, but is that really any different from, what Harden does, except for drawing as many fouls? I mean, I think they have real similar games.
Yeah.
Wall is not as explosive as Harden is. He's deceptively explosive off the dribble when he wants to be. But I think that, what they do are some of the similar things, and that's why it'll be a little bit more difficult and tricky. And Harden could make it work with his boy, so why would we think he's going to be able to make it work with John Wall?
Yeah, I mean, basically, that's bottom line, Before we move off from the NBA, I did see earlier, I'm trying to find it, Eric was asking about Charlotte, how many wins you think they're going to get. I'll let you answer that as the person who lives in Charlotte and probably knows the team a little better than I do right now.
So I say, man, Charlotte's going to be in contention for a playoff spot, I think. Obviously, Brooklyn made the playoffs last year anyway. So they were right there last year anyway. So they're going to take up the spot. Obviously, I think Washington's going to be in there. I would say we're going to play 72 games. I would say we could expect the Hornets to get at least 35, between 35 and about 42 wins would be my guess. So somewhere right below or just above 500 would be my expectation for Charlotte year one with Hayward and with Paul. So those are going to be two interesting pieces as well as some other guys they added. So I think that they're going to, be somewhere around there as far as wins. I wouldn't be surprised if they had a few less wins. I wouldn't be surprised if they had a few more, but if putting a number on it, I'm going to say somewhere between about 35 and 42.
And then Rob was asking about the Sixers, and my thoughts, and you kind of looking at the Sixers added a couple pieces. Obviously, the biggest piece they added was Doc Rivers is the coach. So I think that they probably win a few more games than they did last year. But I think it's going to really take Doc a year or two to get that team completely turned around where he wants it. They really kind of bought into a way of doing things around there for a while. It clearly has not got them where they want to go. And I think it takes time to change that culture and get what Doc's going to want to get in there. So I say give them another year or two before you put too much expectations on Philadelphia.
Well, I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach. I'm thinking Philadelphia could be a 50-win team. Simple reason is the main problem that we've had with Philadelphia the last few years, Tobias Harris hasn't stepped up. The best season he had was on the Clippers with Doc Rivers as head coach. So if Doc's able to get that out of Tobias again, obviously health is a big thing because you have two guys, Simmons and Embiid, who both have missed time. Embiid more so, the Simmons with the injury last year. So we don't know how prepared he's going to be starting the season. Or if he's going to be his same self at that point or not. But I'm thinking with Tobias Harris being more like the Tobias Harris the Sixers thought they were getting when they re-signed him with Doc there, as well as Embiid and some other pieces, I feel like they're going to be able to get those wins. And the thing is, keep in mind, we have some strong teams in the East, but, I think Philadelphia's one of those teams with a better coach than Doc. They can get you 50 wins this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think Doc will definitely make them better, and I do expect them to win more than they did last year. I just don't know that this is going to be a team that's going to make the playoffs this year. Because the East is looking pretty stacked.
Yeah, I think Philadelphia will make the playoffs.
Then they will?
I think they definitely will make the playoffs in the East.
Okay. I'm not so sure. I'm not counting them out just yet, but I'm not locked in on them. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm locking them in.
Okay.
Clink, clink. I'm locking them in.
Click, click.
Clink, clink.
So we got about 15 minutes here, man. If you want to go ahead and jump on these NFL picks, and then last few minutes, if anybody has any topics that they want to talk about, we can jump back into those. So y'all can just drop those in the comments while we do the NFL picks, and we'll get back to them here at the end.
Definitely. So a game that a few weeks ago there'd be no way we'd talk about, but I actually think it's going to be a good game now. New Orleans and Atlanta. Raheem Morris has his team playing well. I like Atlanta. I think that they found the right balance now. The yards for different people have went down, so they're not as explosive as they were, but they're not behind all the time anymore either. So I think that, with Taysom Hill at quarterback, facing Atlanta at Mercedes-Benz, them having a few weeks of tape on him, I'm going to actually pick Atlanta for the upset in this game.
Yeah, I mean, look, I heard from a Saints fan the other day that they don't really feel like Taysom Hill has demonstrated that he can be an actual quarterback. He's really a gimmick player. And they even said themselves they're not super clear on why he's getting the start right now over Jameis Winston. But at the end of the day, it's like what you just said. There's a couple weeks of film on him, and teams are going to be able to adjust. So I think Atlanta actually could win this game. They are playing better. The question mark around Atlanta is not necessarily on can their defense adjust, but can their offense go out there and do what it needs to do? Because their offense has been very up and down. I've listened to a lot of the sports talk radio here in Atlanta, and they are not very happy with Dirk Cutter, understandably. So that, to me, is going to be the question mark on Atlanta winning this game is can their offense actually do enough? They have the talent. They should be able to. So maybe it's just the play calling, but they're not getting it done offensively.
Well, two things to remember. There haven't been very many games this year where you've had your number one and your number two receiver both playing. Ridley's been out a couple of weeks injured. We know that Julio's been in and out of lineup with injuries. So if you get both of those guys playing this week, which from everything I've saw so far, I've had to go for fantasy, which is why I actually know about both of them. So I'm not following Atlanta on the street, trust me. But from everything I see, they both should play this week. You get both of those guys on the field, you can't double both of them. Whatever you take away, the other guy is going to go eat crap. So that's, I think, one of the things that's been affecting him. But I do hear what you're saying, but I think they're going to pull it off with no problem.
Yeah, so I mean, we'll see what happens. Like I said, I think if Atlanta's offense shows up, it's definitely a winnable game for them. That's for me. That was the question mark: is can that offense show up? So a game that I'm going to highlight, and I wouldn't even have brought this game up a couple weeks ago, is San Francisco against Buffalo. We saw a 49ers team that got a lot of people back on the defensive side of the ball and completely shut down the Rams. But to be fair, we always shut down the Rams. So I'm not sure how much to put into it, which is why I'm actually interested in watching this game Monday night, is to see, are we going to be able to go out there defensively and play that well again? Because at that point, much like I was just talking with Atlanta, it now comes down to, can Nick Mullins do enough offensively to move the ball and get San Francisco where they need to be? Because Ayuk should be back. Speaking of having your number one and number two, Debo came back last week. So you got your top two wide receivers right there. That should be an interesting game to watch. As long as the 49ers that play the Eagles don't show up.
So, who are you picking?
I'm gonna be the homer, and I'm gonna go with the Niners. So, but I'm also going to admit that it's a homer pick.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to go with Buffalo in that game. I think Stephon Diggs is due for that really big week, and I think it's been kind of brewing for a while. They've got a good run game. They've got some other guys who can catch the ball. Josh Allen's kind of been figured out as far as the running, so he's not doing that as much. He's doing a better job of picking his moments the last few weeks. But I think Buffalo's going to need this win. They're going to want this win, and they're going to do their best to take that win away from San Francisco. But I wouldn't be surprised if San Francisco is able to show up, get some turnovers, and actually win the game. But I am going to pick Buffalo.
Okay. Staying over in the NFC West, you got the Rams at the Cardinals. Man,
Yeah.
you talking about a team that is just been kind of slowed down now there's some tape on them. Arizona started off on fire this season, and they have cooled off significantly. I'm picking the Rams.
I'm going to pick Arizona, but I do agree with what you're saying. And the reason is I've actually watched a couple of Arizona games. They're not getting the ball to DeAndre Hopkins. They're allowing the defense to focus on him, and they're allowing him to be taken away. I don't see them moving him around enough. I don't see them giving him picks and little things to help him, get free, because obviously you take DeAndre Hopkins away and you still have a good team, but you don't have a team that scares a lot of people, right? They're not running the ball the same clip they were last year with the Drake trade. So they're going to have to figure out ways to get DeAndre Hopkins the ball more, and they're going to have to figure out ways to be more physical.
Yeah.
It was all fun and games when Murray was just able to sling the ball to Hopkins and have those big games. But now Murray's got to do more work. He's got to put trust in Hopkins. Throw the ball, man. If Hopkins is covered, this man caught a Hail Mary in the end zone over two people. Throw that man the ball. That's why you're paying him the big money.
Throw it. Throw the ball.
Throw it.
Oh, they feel my Escalus to never do another reference on the show.
He hasn't asked so far, so until he asks, Kyler Murray needs to go and purify himself in the waters of Lake Minnetonka.
Hey, so Ross said that the NFC East is going to go 0-4 this week, man. You buying or selling?
I'm looking for all the games.
So
I'm looking for the last one.
Giants and Seahawks.
Oh, bye. That's a hard buy, Rob. Hard buy. Hard buy. Hard buy. Hard buy. Hard buy.
I don't know, man. You don't think Dallas has a chance against the Ravens without Lamar Miller or Lamar Jackson?
Lamar might be back.
I thought he was out for sure for 2 weeks.
No, all you got to do is pass the test, I think, and he could be back. Even if you put RG3 out there. The way they run the ball against Dallas,
So
All I'm
home
gonna
for
say
it
is
is.
hard buy, Rob. Hard buy, hard buy, hard buy.
Yeah, I'm buying too, man. I'm buying too. It's
I'm not just
I can
buying, I'm
believe home
hard buy.
for.
We don't use this word, but I would say that that's a stone cold lead pipe lock that the NFC East is gonna go on for this. If any team from the NFC East wins this week, kudos to you, and you outperformed what you've shown all year.
So an interesting game, I think. One that is a team that's had a couple of bad weeks, but for the most part has played pretty well since getting rid of a certain GM and coach. Is the Texans and the Colts?
I was actually going to talk about that game, so love it.
Yeah, that's to me an interesting matchup. The Colts defense is for real,
It
but they
is.
didn't look like it last week. So I think that defense is going to want to come back and try to prove themselves. But Deshaun Watson right now is playing MVP caliber football.
Yes, he is.
So he's not going to get the recognition because his team has a losing record. But he's playing MVP caliber football. So I think there's going to be a very interesting matchup to watch.
Yeah, it's going to be a great matchup for me too. What I like about him is at this point, he's gotten to the point where he's just saying, you know what, I don't have a number one. Oh well, you can catch, you can catch, you can catch. I didn't can catch. My running backs can catch. All you're gonna get the ball. So I like the fact that he's spreading the ball around. It doesn't do good for anyone's individual numbers. So if you have any of those guys in fantasy, it's kind of like I just got to hope that he has a good week this week or sit him on the bench. But I think when you look at Watson, he's a guy you want to play every week because he's putting up the yards by just spreading the ball around. You're open, I'll give you the ball. I don't have any tunnel vision. I'm not focusing in on one guy. I do think when he had DeAndre Hopkins, rightfully so, there was a certain portion of the time that he's just thinking, let me get DeAndre the ball. Let me make a play with my guy. But now you don't have that, so you're more like, I got to get whoever's open because I don't have one guy that I feel confident if I really need to play, I'm just going to throw only to him.
Right. It's the ultimate given what the defense give or take on the defense gives you.
Yeah. As far as who's going to win the game, I'm going to go Indianapolis because I think that exactly what you said. That defense feels a little bit embarrassed and disrespected by how they let things happen against Tennessee last week, and they're going to want to come out and let people know that was a fluke versus what you should expect from us. And they're going to come out and hit Houston in the mouth hard, fast, and a lot. And I think they're going to be able to make enough plays to win the game.
Yeah, I agree. Indianapolis is a team that I don't think they're necessarily as good as their record indicates, but they have a winning formula, which is on offense, you are spreading the ball around to different receivers, you're running the football, and you're playing great defense. And when you have that formula in the NFL, you win a lot of football games. So I'm also going to take Indianapolis.
Indianapolis, Houston does this as well, but they use multiple backs. So you don't get one back that pounds the whole time. You get one back, one series, all the way down, touchdown, turnover, whatever it is, field goal. And in the next series, you come out with a different back. So it's Wilkins one series, it's Hines one series. It's Duke Johnson and then the other running back for Houston. I can't remember his name at the moment, but those two guys. So you're getting multiple guys, the ball on a regular basis. So you're keeping them a little fresher so they have a little bit more spring in their step. They're hitting the holes a little bit harder. And they also know if I don't do something on this drive, next drive I'm going to be watching.
Yeah. So, be interesting to see, man. That was all the games I really had to talk about. So I don't know if you have any other ones you want to throw out there real quick. Or
Cleveland, Tennessee is the other one. It's the same thing that's happened to Deshaun Watson. It's happening to Baker Mayfield. He's a better quarterback without his best wide receiver. Because with Jarvis Landry, he had a good game this week, but he hasn't done a lot. I had him in fantasy. I ended up dropping him just because he's not producing. But he can have a big game here and there for you. He may be big for him down the stretch, but I couldn't trust him. But Baker's throwing the ball to everyone. Some of the guys are making plays, some of them are not, but they're getting the opportunities. There's not a every 3 or 5 plays, I want to make sure I get the ball to this guy. It's just whoever's open, get the rock. I think that's the best in today's NFL. There's a couple of plays where you say, I want to get to this guy, but for the most part, you just give it to whoever's open.
Yeah.
But Tennessee just came off of that dominant performance. And don't think for a minute they're going to go into Cleveland. And Cleveland's going to come to them, to Nashville, in their stadium, after what they just did in Indianapolis, and win this game. Tennessee's going to win this game, but I'm interested in it because I want to see how well Cleveland's going to perform in a tough situation.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the rest of the season, watching and seeing what Baker Mayfield does with the weapons that are on the team now, I think it's also going to go a long way toward how Cleveland views either keeping or trading OBJ in the offseason.
Right.
If they feel like, you know what, Baker's a better quarterback without him, and we don't necessarily need him to win, they might actually look to move him. Because there's been some smoke around that for a while about possibly him wanting out. Nothing's come of it as of right now. And to his credit, he hasn't been a disruption to the team, if that is the case. But, right. If they're looking at it like, hey, why should we be paying you this big contract if you're not really contributing, just winning more games? So, possibility we could see OBGA on his way out if Baker continues to play better without him. If he starts to struggle down the stretch, they might be looking for Baker's replacement in the draft and keep OBJ around for them to throw the ball to. We'll see.
We will see. A couple of comments while we were looking. I see that Billy Venable picked Atlanta as well as the Rams in those 2 games. And then Big Rob also noted that he also thinks that Lamar Jackson is playing. But either way, like I said, I still think 0-4 is yeah.
Yeah, so I am seeing a message on the screen that says chat disconnected. Please wait, we'll try to reconnect you. So hopefully everyone is able to still hear us. If you lost us there for a second, we're back. If you did lose us, just ignore that comment. We didn't go anywhere.
For sure.
I'm getting the error on my screen.
Well, I'm very excited, man. I think we're going to have good sports happening here. We didn't really get a chance to talk NCAA, too much this week. A lot going on with the NBA and the NFL. But definitely have some thoughts I'm going to share next week in regards to NCAA basketball, what I've seen so far. I've actually watched quite a few of those games as well. So I've been very excited from what I've seen so far. It's going to be a big sports time, everybody. Whatever sport you're interested in, it's going to be there for you to see.
I'm putting it in the chat here just to see it because I'm having some issues on my end. I'm not 100% sure if people can see us or not.
Yeah.
So hopefully somebody let us know if they can see us here in just a second. But yeah, I mean, we'll definitely have to talk a little NCAA as that season wears on. Right now, they're dealing with some COVID issues of their own and games getting postponed left and right. So a few stories we could talk about there, but nothing too big going on with college basketball just yet. So we'll kind of see what's going on there. But we are pretty much about at the end here anyways. All right, so cool. They can't see and hear us. I've just lost a preview on our screen, so I can't see us anymore. But it's all good.
Yeah, I can see us too. I think so. I think we're good. But yeah, man. So appreciate everyone that tuned in. Welcome to Bohemia. Appreciate you, getting in the chat with us and rocking with us. Hopefully, we'll see you here some more. Big Rob, Billy V, Big E. Appreciate y'all hopping back in with us to chat it up. Y'all know we love to be interactive. It's a lot easier.
Always.
A lot easier.
Yeah, it's amazing how much you can be interactive when you have people to interact with, man. Seems so basic, man, but you know.
And quick note for everybody: the only week that we won't be doing the show is Christmas week. For every other week, you tune in, we here. Christmas week,
Yep.
we're not here.
But before we get to Christmas, got something else coming up next week.
Yes,
The
sir.
1 year anniversary show of the Play Color Sports Talk show. So we turn 1 years old next week, y'all. So make sure you tune in. Hopefully we're gonna have some special surprises for you next week. Got a few things we're working on that hopefully will be ready in time for that show. If not, then you know we'll get them to you ASAP. But hopefully we're gonna have them for you next week, and we can celebrate that 1 year anniversary in style. So definitely much appreciation to everybody who's tuned in, subscribed, especially the people who've been here like week in, week out, chatting with us in the comments. Really just much love and appreciation for everything that y'all have done with us. So as
1 year.
as my co-host put it during some of the early episodes, the Play Callers is for everybody. Play Callers for the kids.
Play Callers ever.
Well, man. Well, with that, man, we are at our time for the night, but we go from Wu-Tang Clan to Outkast and remind everybody even the sun goes down
And heroes eventually die.
and horoscopes often lie.
But sometimes why?
None is a show,
None is for certain.
but until they close the curtain,
It's him and I.
Play Callers.
Yeet,
Y'all better know that. Yeah, E. Time flies when you're having fun, man. That's what we do.
Yes, sir.
So appreciate y'all tuning in. Make sure you hit that subscribe button in the bottom right hand corner if you've not already done so. Make sure you hit that little arrow that says share and invite some other people to come party with us for the 1 year anniversary of the Play Color Sports Talk Show next week, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Holla at y'all.
I'll let you folk.
ATL to Charlotte, North Carolina. Y'all better know that.
Yee, yee. 1 year.